Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the weekly podcast where we discuss business, sports, politics, and whatever's on our mind. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always is my partner in crime. You know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Man, it's good to be back, man. We have not done a podcast. It seemed like, 2 weeks, man, during the pandemic be seeming like, so I don't know how long ago, man, but it's like we haven't done this in a while, man. It's just good to be back.
Absolutely.
You got to do a vacation.
Yeah. That's why I figured I want to bring people up to speed, let them know that I'm not really at the beach right now.
Oh, because I thought you were still at the beach.
They're like, hey, is Twiggs still at the beach? No, this is a fake background, actually.
That's a fake background?
Yeah, I know.
I was gonna say that's the stillest water I've ever seen.
See, now you know why the water's not moving.
Okay.
Yeah. So last week we were out on vacation, but now we are back and we are getting at it. This is truly not your everyday podcast. You will definitely learn that if you haven't figured that out by now. We have a special guest that's square number 3 that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But before we go there, we want to just talk about a few things. We got the What Now movement, and it's this private group we have of entrepreneurs and authors and career professionals that are prepared to answer that question of what now, right? And, every day we've got the theme for the What Now movement. Today is, we had 2 M's today, Ted. 2 M's.
2 M's?
2 M's.
M and M.
M and M.
All right, what y'all talking about?
So the first M is Motivational Monday.
Okay.
Right? And we had Brendan, who has the Master Your Talk YouTube page with over 3,000 followers. Man, he broke that down. Like, if you've ever felt nervous about public speaking, just watch that. Watch the Live at Noon by Brendan today. You got that covered. He gave some tips. I mean, you walk away feeling motivated, inspired, and empowered. So that's the first M, right?
Yeah.
So the second M is Marketing Monday. Marketing Monday. So that's where you get to leave your link, your promotional link. Tell us about upcoming projects that you have going on. Yeah, you just never know. Today might be the day you get discovered.
Man.
Right?
Man. Wow.
Right?
Marketing and motivational money all together.
Right. Not just 1 M. See, some shows, they give you 1 M.
Some don't give you any M.
Right. Sometimes you give it. Right? That's right.
Wow.
So no, definitely check out the What Now movement group. You can go in there, you can watch that video, you can leave your promotional link. I know you've got a book, you can promote your book. You've got a business, you can promote your business. But check that out. It's a great opportunity for you. And like I said, again, this is not your everyday podcast. We do things a little different. You can go to the 30minutehour.net and you can see videos of previous episodes. You can actually see audios that we've done. You can listen to audios that we've done before. They're all on that same website. And you can even go to this particular page here and see some of the previous episodes from the past. So Ted.
Yes, sir.
You still with me?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's been a while, man. I'm still thinking about, you getting to take a vacation. I don't recall signing any permission slip. You just rolled out and was just gone. I mean, I thought you was going. You said when you said I'm gonna take a vacation, I thought you was gonna do like a virtual vacation. It was like a Zoom vacation, but you did an actual real vacation, man. So, well, I just got to get back in. It's been a couple weeks, man. I got to get back into this. So ask me again.
All right, we'll try this again.
Yeah.
Do we need to log off and log on again, or I just?
No, because sometimes we have connectivity issues, man. So we connected, so let's stay connected.
All right. So Ted?
Yes.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
All right. I want to talk today about the difference between being a target and being a victim. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's a difference between being a target and being a victim. And it has everything to do with our guest and how she helps people. But we're going to go here. All right. So there's this story, Ted. There's this guy named Harry. So Harry is a hiring manager for a Fortune 500 company. And one fateful morning, he's driving into this crowded company parking lot to begin his day of interviews. You know, he's a hiring manager. He's got these interviews. So after several minutes of circling, he finally locates a space and he pulls in. But he doesn't notice this guy named Bruce sitting in a brown Buick waiting for the same spot. So, hey, jerk, that's what Bruce yells.
Yeah.
Did you see me sitting here? Are you blind? Now Harry's running late, so he doesn't really take time to reply. He just ignores this Bruce who's bullying him. And this makes Bruce even more upset. So he responds with the following words while he's waving a certain finger in the air.
We're number one.
Not that finger. So he says, okay, I get it. You're blind and deaf, so maybe you can understand sign language as he's waving this finger. Okay, so Harry arrives at his desk. He's shaken from this encounter that he's just had with Bruce, this bully, but he's set for his scheduled interview because that's what he does. He's a hiring manager. Fortune 500 company. So he sits down. Sarah, his secretary, she chimes in on the intercom. Good morning, Harry. Your 8:30 a.m. appointment is here. Thanks, Sarah. Please send him in. So the candidate walks into his office. Harry glances down at the resume on his desk and with a tone of confidence says, good morning, Bruce. I'm really looking forward to our interview today. So here's the thing. So since Harry was in a position of amplified influence, he may have been targeted by Bruce the bully, but he certainly wasn't a victim.
Wow.
And here's the thing: if you have amplified influence and you consistently communicate with confidence, you can be the target of a workplace bully, but you won't become a victim. That's the big takeaway.
Wow. Well, that's a great story, man. I mean, so how'd the interview go? Did Bruce get the job?
Oh yeah, he starts Monday. That's now
he's going to be in HR working right along with Harry.
No, I mean, and that's a true story. That actually happened. I mean, the names have been changed, but that actually happened. And those incidents, those types of incidents happen all the time.
Wow.
You know, and it just, you know, and like our guest, she addresses both sides of it as far as what the employee can do. And I know she even addresses what companies can do, kind of the other side of it. So I think the story speaks to both. And let's go ahead and introduce her. I think this is the perfect segue, you know, because our guest, I mean, she's passionate about training women to amplify their influence and communicate confidently to ensure that they don't become the victim of a workplace bully. Because again, I mean, somebody can target you, but that doesn't mean you have to be a victim. And it's all in how you carry it. I'm curious to hear Dr. Monk, what her insights are, our guest. She's passionate, like we said, about training these women. She is the founder of the Bold Moves experience. She trains women how to use their core value system so they are more influential, effective, confident, and productive contributors in the workplace and their communities. By focusing on the core value system and regaining confidence, these women are equipped to make the bold moves necessary to improve their career choices, communication style, interpersonal skills, and social skills, all of which result in personal satisfaction. Her mission in life is to teach women how to be the voice and not the echo.
Mm.
That's deep.
Oh my goodness.
We have to ask
The
about
voice
that.
and not the echo.
You got to be the voice. There's a difference between being the voice and the echo.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
She talks about this using her stay model to stand in their power unapologetically, take control of their thoughts and actions, and assess whose help they need and yield to their authenticity. She has a doctorate of management, and her published work is entitled Workplace Bullying in Search of a Clear Definition. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Dr. Christi Monk.
Welcome.
There's a round of applause. You hear all the people.
Welcome. Woo! Welcome, Dr. Monk.
Oh, wow. Thank you for having me. Wow. And I think the title of the talk around workplace bullying is very relevant now, where we see so many organizations tapping into diversity, equity, and inclusion. And a lot of that lends itself to mistreatment and abuse of power. But as you mentioned, there are ways you can be a target, but you don't necessarily have to be the victim. So I am glad to be here, and fire away. I'm ready for you.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I have quite a few questions that just have come to mind, but I'm going to try to stay focused here. So what life experiences inspired you to become this anti-bullying person and this expert in this field?
Well, probably over the last maybe 10 years in my career, I really didn't know what it was. I had been laid off of 2 jobs, no warning. It was 2 white men in both instances that felt that I wasn't the person for the job. And part of that entailed me challenging them to give me the tools and the resources to actually, do what I needed to do. When I started working on my doctoral degree, didn't realize that it was, I think, an unction from God to do it, because what I really started working on when I left the 2 jobs, and the last one, and went to work in the government, there was a video around workplace bullying. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, that's how they treated me. And then a part of my research was really just understanding about the abuse of power, the personality differences, but then tapping back into the organizations where bullying often is the culture, because it's like the HR partners really don't see it for what it is, because we see leaders as leaders, and it's just like, if you complain, it's just them doing their job. But it also morphs back into people being promoted but not prepared, because just because you can make widgets don't mean that you can lead people. And most organizations feel like, oh, they did good over here, and now I want them to lead my people because we can get the bottom line results. So you have this focus on process, but you lose the focus on people. And we know that people don't leave organizations because of the organization, they leave it because of their leaders. And then when I actually got into government, I saw it in a whole different way, because what I realized is bullying is not, of course, protected under Title VII, and it has to be proven. And regardless to the work environment or the industry, for example, when you have Black on Black, I can't prove bullying. But does that mean that I have not been bullied? So you still have this disconnect with power, color, and I guess it's power and color, but then using them to, I think, play one side against the next. And I can't say to you that I'm being bullied if you look like me. But it's easy for me to say it if there's someone who doesn't look like me and I feel like I'm being mistreated, I think. But the underlying thing about bullying is it's perceived. And if I said you're doing it, you're doing it. But there are not any laws, and typically HR is pro management. So you don't get the support from an employee level that you deserve. And I think the other piece to that is not knowing what your rights are as an employee, because many are afraid of retaliation or losing their jobs, simply because they got families and they got other needs. But when you know what your rights are, you don't have to become the victim, because now you have the tools to actually fight back. But that's also back to conflict resolution and using your voice. And that's why, and it's not just specific to women, but I teach men how to be the voice and not the echo. But you have to have the confidence and be willing to stand up. And I think that links back to just what we're talking about, like with the racial injustice. We're using our voices now, but just imagine if we did that same thing in the workplace every day.
Okay. So what are some specific signs? Because I know we've got people that are watching us that may be career professionals. Mm-hmm. So what are some specific warning signs that you may be being targeted for bullying in the workplace? What are some specific telltale signs?
So one is that you're being excluded from key projects or things that directly impact the work that you do. Mm. You're being excluded from those meetings. You're being chastised or criticized in public often. I think even just having work taken away from you and even asking you to stay late when other people don't have to do those things. So it's really more so anything that makes you feel like you're being singled out, and you can prove it. And I think what I saw for me was my work being taken away from me when I knew I had a particular oversight. And in those moments, my team even noticed it. Like, what's going on? And then as a manager, I kind of just like, well, it is what it is. But it really wasn't what it was. It was that I was being bullied, but I tried to bypass it just because that's just the way we do things. But I think the telltale sign is really when you start having things being taken away from you and you being excluded from key things that you need to be a part of in order to successfully do your job.
Okay. And then so, like, if you could go back to earlier in your career before any of the bullying started, kind of knowing what you now know, what would you do kind of with the knowledge you have now?
If I could go back, I think I would even use my voice a little bit stronger. I think I wouldn't sit back and allow things to happen and build up. I would actually address them in the moment, even if that was going to cause something on the other side. Because I think let's just say in those moments, if I would have gotten fired, at least I knew I stood up for myself. And I think it's when you don't do that, that's when you start dealing with the stress. That's when you start having the anxiety. That's when you start going home, not wanting to talk to your family. You start drinking, all these other things to mask what you wish you could have done, woulda, shoulda. But at the end of the day, you also have to think about if somebody's criticizing you in public as your leader, why can't you say something back to them? Because typically we think it's the exertion of power. And that's to make you powerless. And even if you don't say anything in those moments, it's worthy of you shooting that person an email or pulling them to the side, say, can I talk to you? But you don't necessarily have to give them back what they gave you, because then that's still just more conflict. But you have to call people to the carpet in those moments when they're doing the things that actually make you feel like you are less than. And when you just continue to let those things happen, you begin to believe it. And that becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy, which then affects your work. And then what they said about you, which wasn't necessarily true, but because you didn't address it, it begins to reign true because your performance is declining. You're not coming to work. And all that's because you don't want to deal with the bully.
So Dr. Monk, and when you're talking about bullying, though, does it have to happen multiple times, or if it's one time? So let's say there's a situation, and kind of there's a meeting, and a ball was dropped, right? And that supervisor addresses you at that time, just says, hey, Eric, you didn't take care of this or didn't do that, or,
Mhm.
what the heck, right? In that meeting, in that moment, right? Is that bullying if it just happens, bullying if it just happens that one time?
So no, it's not, because I think everyone has an opportunity to self-correct if I bring it to your attention. But now, every time we have a meeting and I'm saying to you, Eric, you didn't do this, you're doing that, after you said to me, well, I didn't really like the way you approached me in the meeting and it made me feel some type of way, because the first thing to do is always to address the person, because not all things are bullying in the sense of a person that may be their communication style, that may be the way they learn to manage, especially if they were doing widgets and now they would learn, they were made managers. So you have a few dynamics, but it's incumbent upon the person who's on the receiving end of that conversation, whatever it is. If it makes you feel that way, the thing about bullying is perception. So you have to call it out. And if I dismiss what you say going forward, then yes, it is. You can feel bullied, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are bullied until you bring it up the first time, and that should be as soon as it happens. And then if it's continuous, and then you begin to document and create that record to link you back to that.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes I feel that Eric, just kind of calls me out certain ways during the podcast in some kind of way. And, and I just feel, I don't know. Dr. Monk, I have to give you a call offline on this, but just sometimes I just feel like, it's just unfair treatment. So
Yeah.
I just want to know if it's bullying or is it just, something else.
And that's why it's also important, to really understand where you are as a person from an emotional intelligence standpoint, because
Right.
first, everything's about self-awareness, then self-regulation, then you know what motivates you, and then your social awareness and your social skills. So again, when people are promoted, their emotional intelligence normally stays in that last position. Not unless they are, really seeking professional development. And so that's where you really will find the bullying, because people don't know the difference between managing and leading. Okay. You manage tasks, you lead people. Okay. But if you've never been taught to do that, you may see more mistreatment that morphs into bullying, because like I said, it becomes a person's management style.
So I'm gonna call you. I just want to run a couple of things by you. I don't necessarily want to be on the clock, so I'm just going to run some things by you. So whenever
offline.
Yeah, I just want to run some things by you. That's not really on the clock. Okay. I just want to just share a little bit. I just want to get your thoughts on some things.
Okay, that's what I'm here for.
All right.
When Ted brought that up, somehow I figured that's what. Oh boy. Okay. All right. So, it sounds like, the advice you would have for someone who thinks they may be in this situation where they're being targeted is to speak up and just acknowledge it right away.
Yeah. Or even, I would say, even if you can't do it right away, depending on how high your emotions are in the moment, because you also have to be mindful of where you are emotionally. That's why I said emotional intelligence, because sometimes things can be happening, but they trigger you from things that happened in the past. Because most of us leave jobs because we got mad about something, right? And that's typically your emotional baggage. You're taking that from one job to the next. You think, oh, it's going to change. And then there may be times when you have to look at you. Am I really being mistreated, or am I not getting what I want? So you have to also, it's a balance, you know what I'm saying? In doing that. And that's why I said it's important to have the conversation first, because you may not know that you're doing that to me. That just may be something that, you've always done, especially as a leader, because managers do bully more because they have the power to do it. Because I can say that I'm managing my team. Well, you can be, but it still warrants a conversation. And that's what I call managing up. So you should be having one-on-one with your staff. And so in that one-on-one time, it should be a dialogue and not a monologue. But people have to, again, have that confidence to be able to have those hard conversations. And I think it would be worthy if people would just turn this inward, like the conversation you have with your spouse or your partner when they done said whatever you said, put the blinders on and play like that's them, but not talking and cussing, but say what you feel.
Yeah.
Because the only way people are going to treat you differently is if they know that they need to. And when you're silent, that's saying that's giving people free reign to do it. So
you mentioned being the voice and not the echo. What does that mean exactly?
Using your voice. Don't be an afterthought. And you typically see this with women in the workplace. And I'm sure y'all don't do this, but you could be it can be a room full of men and it's women there. And every male has the bright idea. And then Christi says, oh, the sky is blue. And I think we should put 5 stars. Then no response. And then you say, you know what? Ted, the sky is blue and we should have more stars. You know what? You sure right, Eric. And as a woman, I should say, Eric, thanks for echoing what I just mentioned.
Wow.
And furthermore, I think we should add the moon. It's knowing how to navigate that, but typically women will sit there silent and not having the tools and strategies to actually basically show up at the same table and have the same conversations. But what we see is that our voices are softer, and men's, a male's voice is more authoritative. So it's important to learn how to play the game without getting played.
It's interesting that you say that. I was in a meeting one time, and a lady had suggested something, and everyone in the meeting, including other ladies at the table, they knew that was not, like, that was an issue that we shouldn't deal with. Now, this person didn't know, she was new to it, but she put it out there, right? And then later, one of the men at the table said something, but said it a little bit differently, because he knew certain things. And everybody was like, okay. And she was noticeably upset and was like, that's what I said. That's what I just said. And I think took it just the way that you just mentioned. So it's just interesting. It just kind of replayed that situation in my mind where, that was, I guess I really bothered that individual.
And I think because we communicate differently as well, but even though she said it differently and everybody heard it, he said the same thing, but somebody could have said, you know what, Christi, I think that's really what you were trying to say. And that's and that's why we feel like we're left alone, because even if I said it incorrectly, even if I'm new, I'm already getting the perception that there's no support here. And then my voice is going to be silent. And if I have another bright idea in my head, I don't even want to share it now, because I don't want to be shut down or rejected. Because what just happened in that room, although she felt speaking up, she's also feels that she lost her credibility. So there's a lot that ties into how we treat each other in the workplace, regardless of race, age, and gender. So it links back to a lot of things.
Awesome. So we're here with Dr. Christi Monk. She is the anti-workplace bullying expert. We're here on the 30-minute hour. Again, I know we got people logging on. Make sure you're typing in comments, typing in your questions as we go forward. But let's switch it a little bit. So we've been talking about from the perspective of what should the employee or the person in the workplace be doing. But let's really focus now, because I know you help companies and organizations from an organizational development standpoint. So what should the entrepreneur that's watching us now, that employs, numerous people, what are some things the entrepreneur can do to put the anti-bullying culture in place at his organization?
Well, first, I think that the important thing is to make sure that, one, they're clear on their core values, the things that the organization stands for. And then when they are interviewing or onboarding, they should have interview questions or whatever to begin to see if the people that they're onboarding are actually in alignment with their vision. Because you always think that your staff is a representation of you, right? So you also have to have things in place for leadership development, and that's first looking at you. One of the things I use, it's similar to the DISC, but it's called the Christi temperament assessment, which is the same thing where you're looking at your communication styles, you're looking at, the 7 things that you're great at, the 7 things to be aware of, like those blind spots. So I would say that whichever type of personality assessment they use as a baseline, DISC, Christi, or whatever it is, you have to have an understanding of who you are and the people that you would be bringing on. Because again, you have those different personalities and those traits, and it makes a difference when you're just really trying to seek to understand others, but you first have to seek to understand yourself. And I think when you put leadership development strategies in place, and your handbook should not say we will all treat each other equally. That doesn't address bullying. So, and who says what equal is? How do you call it out? And I think just making sure that your policies and procedures are very clear on how people will be treated and how bullying will be addressed. And you definitely have to write that in so that people know what the consequences are for mistreatment. Awesome. And most organizations don't have that. But my research came up with 3 definitions, and don't ask me what they are right now.
What are they right now?
but they all are about perception, and everything is about perception. Because perception, I think, in those moments when organizations have to do the investigations, just to kind of seek to understand, they should be asking questions like, did you talk to your manager, or did you speak to their manager? Like, what was your process for handling this? And those things need to be spelled out. It's not just, and even if I didn't feel like I couldn't talk to them, who could I talk to? What did I say as an HR? I say, I talked to you, and nothing changed. So there has to be clear parameters around how people will be treated and what the consequences are for when they are not.
So Dr. Monk, we have a couple questions here, Eric. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So
you just bullied me because I was about to ask those questions. You said I was about to. But go on, Eric. Go on, ask the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, it cut me off. I was feeling bullied.
Go ahead and ask the question. How about you ask one and I ask the other?
All right. There you go.
See, that's compromise.
Conflict resolution. All right.
Yes.
So first we have Esther Ivory. She has a question. She says, what recommendation do you have for managers to learn more about emotional intelligence?
Wow. I would say for managers, I would either do the DISC assessment or the Christi temperament, which I administer, and then sit down. It's Marketing Monday. And sit down.
You're right. Go on, market.
Yeah, we're not mad at you, Dr. Chris.
With the professional to walk you through those things and then to devise your own action plan. Because the first thing about everything, like I said, is self-awareness. And again, if you have not been properly trained and you're operating in what you think is the right way, typically it's never enough. So you always have to be willing to get the training and the tools necessary to be an effective leader. And I think that goes back to servant leadership, because you should seek to serve others and not yourself. Because as a manager, we're always thinking like it's my way, but your team is your greatest asset. So you have to look at what they need. And then the other thing with that, my other plug, is the 5 languages, the 5 language appreciation in the workplace, which is similar to the 5 love languages. And it basically helps you look at what your appreciation language is in the workplace for you to feel valued. And another reason for bullying is people don't feel valued and you don't know how to articulate it. So it's all about self-development, professional development. That's what I would say do. Find what you need by way, and that's ChristiMonk.com. We got you.
So the next question is from Salento Johnson. And the question is, how do you distinguish bullying from racism, ageism, sexism, etc., if the person is not your race, age, or sex?
It's not your, actually, I think it's easier because I think but maybe this was the conversation we were having. So the thing about bullying is not protected under Title VII. So I think I link bullying and racism as the same thing. When you mistreat people, you mistreat people. And depending on your privilege, and that's by color or whatever, that's your abuse of power. So the only way, well, I ain't gonna say the only way, the most known way to address bullying is it has to be coupled with Title VII. So if you are a disabled vet and you're Black and you can prove, that you're being mistreated, and all this goes back to documentation as well. But I think they're still all one and the same, but some bullying instances may be more difficult to prove. And especially if it's, say, for instance, it's Black on Black. So it would be hard for me to prove my Black manager is bullying me, just because we're the same race. But now could I say that I'm a Black woman and she treats all the people on my team differently and I'm the only Black and everybody's white? So it's like, it's kind of like this balancing act. But I think any form of mistreatment is bullying, but it's just not called out that way. And it's not protected under Title VII. I hope that answers the question.
All right, now some great questions. And again, those of you that are watching us, feel free to put the questions in the chat. And we can even have Dr. Christi circle back to answer as we go here.
And I say make the questions as difficult as you like, because
why
Dr. Christi Monk will be the one to answer them. So
I have one over here on my side. I don't know if you see it, but it says, should post-bullying conversations be documented in writing by the person who was bullied? I think that any conversation, any mistreatment in the workplace, good, bad, or indifferent, should always be documented. I had this one lady tell me one time, she called it my Pearl Harbor. So that you never know when it's about to blow up. So you always keep your own documentation. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of people miss when it comes to EEO complaints. You file it, but you have no documentation. And many people wonder why the organization wins. It's because they document it. So when you have your one-on-one, this is for free. When you have your one-on-one conversation with your manager, you document it. Even if they said you deserve $1 million, put it down. The day you had the conversation, if you feel like somebody mistreated you in a meeting, write it down. Write down when you had the conversation. They did it again, write it down. And then at some point, you're gonna have to say, okay, this is enough because I've done it. But guess what? You have your documentation already there. So whatever's going on in the workplace, I know it's a lot, write it down. I don't care how big or how small it is, even if it's good. And that'll help you with your annual performance review. So everything is not bad.
all right, that's good. That's a good point.
Great questions. Great answer by Dr. Christi. So you developed the STAY model. Let's talk about that.
So STAY means stand in your power unapologetically. Take control of your thoughts and actions. Assess whose help you need so you can yield to the authenticity of you. So another reason why we are bullied often is because we don't walk in our authenticity. And in the workplace, we always typically show up as somebody else. And we expect people to, some of us may feel more entitled. Some of us, as we talked about, we don't use our voice. And we miss those opportunities to get mentored, to have sponsors, whatever it is that we need to further our career, we don't utilize those tools. And a lot of it is because we don't know what we need. But many of us, especially women, we don't like to be vulnerable. So in order for you to walk in your power, you really have to know who you are. And using tools and strategies that I talked about, like how you stand up for yourself in meetings, it's not about being aggressive, it's the assertive communication, but those things are taught or learned, and you have to find out who can help you navigate the workplace properly. That could be a mentor inside, a sponsor, somebody who's willing to co-sign for you. It's taking leadership development courses. Like, what do you need in order to show up more powerfully? And until you can really get to the crust of your purpose, because a lot of people will go to work and then figure out, I don't like this, but you have to assess your why. And then that gets you back to understanding whose help you need so you can yield to the authenticity of you. So it teaches you to stay true to you and not compromise who you are in any area of your life.
Excellent, excellent. So you're the founder of Christi Monk and Associates. It's an organizational development consulting firm. And I think you've kind of talked through this the way you've answered these questions, but go ahead, let's reiterate for the folks watching us and listening. What is your mission and how do you specifically help organizations?
Well, so my mission is to make sure that organizations are treating their employees fairly and equitably, but then they're also functioning at the best level of leadership that they can. And I think in helping them understand what it takes to be people-centric while also being process-driven. And again, that goes back to assessing their leadership pool, understanding, people's background and how they may be contributing to the bottom line, and then look for those areas of opportunities where we can bridge the gap by making sure that their leaders are actually, I think, more or less functioning in a servant leadership role, but understanding that other leadership styles coexist with that, because depending on industry, you may have to micromanage, right? But you have to have a clear understanding of your environment. And I think the other piece of that is helping them understand their culture and where it may be hindering, them retaining their top talent. And then that then lends itself back to working with their employees to help them uncover their core value system so that they align their career choices with their core values. Because what I've found is not always about firing people or letting people go, it's finding the fit. And so you may have to reshift and reorganize, but put people where they thrive. And a lot of times leaders don't try to understand that. And that's one of the things that I really capitalize on with the personality assessments and those things to help uncover what each person is good at, so that then you begin to find balance to the degree that you can, and or at least help each other understand who a person is and what they bring and how you interact together to achieve organizational goals and go home happy and because you like what you do, or at least feel appreciated.
Fantastic.
So what if it's a situation where you hire someone for a particular job, right? And then you find out once you hire them that they're not they have some challenges in that area. Is what you're saying that you may look at them to see if they can support some other area? Is that what you're?
I would, because well, two things. So as a leader, a part of your job is coaching and development. Okay. So if you identify those things in a person, I think first it's incumbent upon you to provide the training and resources that they need to do that. But it's a little bit harder for you as a manager because you in 15 meetings and you can't do coach and develop your team. So the piece to that is, let's just say, you know, that this person really, really wants to do the job. And it's just something that person I would really work with and then seek to either find somewhere that's better suited for them. But then if it's on the other side where that person pretty much fabricated their resume, they may have to leave. But I think you can tell just by the willingness that a person exudes in wanting to learn, because everything is about willingness, because it's hard when you make decisions solely off a resume and how a person presented themselves. And then also you may have to ask yourself as a leader, did we write this job description right? Are these really the skills that we need for this particular role? So there are many ways you can play it, but most organizations are going to look and say, this person is not a fit. We may have to let them go. And that's why it's important to have those probationary periods, so that you're not in those spaces to where we got to keep them. But I do think it's incumbent upon any manager to try to work with someone if there's a skill set deficiency, and if you see over time that that's not working out, and if there is a position or something within the organization that's better suited for their skills, by all means try to retain them, because you know it costs just as much to let people go as it does to hire them. So try to retain your staff to the degree that you can. And then I also think that speaks volumes for the organization as to what they value.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then what about the Bold Moves Academy? Tell us about that.
So the Bold Moves Academy, it's been in play for probably about a year and a half ago. But on August 18th, we launched the Bold Moves experience on the University of Phoenix's platform. So that's like really, really huge. And basically what that does, it's an academy for the holistic woman. So we don't just talk about career, it's about the whole woman. And my 6 steps around that is: you live by your core values, you have healthy relationships, you communicate assertively, you manage conflict, you manage those relationships, and so that you can, you know, also be the best you, and self-care. So there's this whole component around being holistic, and I call it the influential woman. And so we uncover your why, we help you uncover your purpose, and then we do the things that you need in order to help sustain you and build community, because all of us are the same, but yet we're different, and some of our struggles may be different, but there's always someone who's had a similar story or the same story, and we help heal each other through the community of walking in our boldness. So it's all about being the best you, operating in your gifts and talents, living your best life, and daring to be different. Y'all see I like acronyms, right?
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So
your content is very well organized, and you've got you make it easy for people to remember and retain what they need to do. That's excellent.
So that's what I do. So my thing is all about women empowerment. I do believe that it can transcend to men as well. I mean, because we all have the same needs, but just at different times and in different ways. But in focusing on the woman, I think over time, we're raising the bar, but we still have to do more work, because at the end of the day, I think women, we often compare ourselves to other women. And those are the things that keep us stagnant, because we're really not focusing on our own personal journey and our own uniqueness and what we bring to the world, to organizations. And if we can get to that point to where we're solid within ourselves, you can make the bold moves. They don't have to make sense to someone else. And we're people pleasers. And that's not, and it's the truth. And we put everybody else before ourselves. And then we get to this place in life, and now we're mad, we're angry, because I gave everything to all of these people, nobody reciprocated, and now I'm feeling diminished. So helping women make the bold moves and learning to put themselves first so they can stay true to who they are is really my mission in life. And that doesn't even have anything to do with color. It's any woman in any facet of her life.
No.
Okay. So what's next on the horizon for you?
Ooh, what's next on the horizon for me? So I'm building out a program, a certification program under the Bold Moves Academy. It's still coming, but that's I've been working on it for the last 3 months, and just collecting all the data and all of the experiences and the coaching sessions that I've had, and trying to bring all that into a more comprehensive program that it's a little bit more work, and it's not that surface level. So I'm trying to take my programs up to another level. I'm looking to do more diversity and inclusion work, helping organizations to have those hard conversations around the social injustice and the racial inequities that we see in the workplace. And then launching my podcast. I got a lot going on, but it's a lot of good stuff. And
Don't be doing your little podcast on Mondays at 7:00. Don't launch your podcast, because we don't want to be competing with Dr. Christi Monk. We don't.
Exactly.
We usually done 8-ish. So you start. So you start by 8:15. You start by 8:15. That's
so how about I do Tell the Truth Tuesday with Dr. Monk?
Tell the Truth Tuesday with Dr. Monk. I like that.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot going on, but I want to be very strategic, because I don't want to be all over the place, and just kind of just kind of stay in the steady state as I grow and as I scale. So I'm just taking one day at a time, but I do have plans, but it is to really expand the Bold Moves experience.
Nice.
Tell the Truth Tuesday.
Don't nobody tell you, that's trademarked. It's copywritten. I said it today on the
Tell the Truth Tuesday.
Yeah.
Now, back to Wednesday. Wednesday come, you can go and scratch it a little bit, but tell the truth on Tuesday.
We're gonna give you wisdom on Wednesday. And we're gonna be thankful on Thursday, and we're gonna have a fabulous Friday.
Boy, Eric, we need to cut this off.
Oh man. I'm just glad she doesn't have an M on Monday.
I'm sure.
Well, it was Motivational Monday, so I'm gonna let you have that.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, we appreciate that. So Dr. Monk, how can our followers best connect with you?
Well, they can connect with me on all social media platforms at Dr. Christi Monk, and that's DrChristiMonk. My website is ChristiMonk.com, and on Twitter, which I really don't use Twitter, but it's just Christi Monk. So that's how you connect with me.
All right, fantastic. So we're about to go around the horn, and this is the part of the program where we each leave that closing thought for our people that are following us. So we'll start with you, our guest of honor, Dr. Christi Monk. What is your final thought that you want to leave with the people?
So I always tell everyone before I close everything, be confident, be bold, be you. That's it. That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Then go on, drop the mic.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
How do I follow that, Aaron?
Well, Ted, I know you love going after the guest that's just inspired us, and
that's right. The expert on the subject matter. Right. I got to follow behind. So I guess my final thought in this is that, just listen to everything that you're saying as a person that is in leadership roles, of needing to be more, trying to really ensure that, that I'm not bullying, right? And just really, that's why some of the questions that I asked were questions around, was I just bothered in that meeting and I said something to that person, or am I, is this something that could be looked at as bullying, right? Because I think that as leaders, we're constantly trying to improve ourselves, and in different situations, and different people need different stuff, and sometimes as leaders we're not always as patient as we need to be, because we're trying to accomplish that, whatever those mission goals are. So just listening to you is just something that as you're talking about bullying, but then I think it's the part is it's just as important as for the leaders to make sure that we're doing the right things that we need to do in dealing with people. Because sometimes I think, it may not be the intention of the leader
Mm-hmm.
to bully, right? Like sometimes, or even when you start talking about, as the other viewer talked about, kind of sexism and racism and all of that. Sometimes when I have these conversations with people, I think that sometimes it's just a sensitivity issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just may not be as sensitive to certain things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're intentionally doing it,
Yeah.
right? That you're just thinking, oh, because I don't know. Like the point that you made earlier about the situation when the female employees, presents an idea, right? And you don't take to it the same way. I don't think that, sometimes that you're automatically thinking, I'm blowing that person off, right? You just may be, not as sensitive as you need to be, about all people and how things could impact people, whether, age, gender, what have you. So this session has definitely, helped to, just to give a little more consideration to all of that.
And I think it's becoming an ally. That's one of the things that we're talking about in this, with the racism and all that type of stuff. But even as a leader, when if you hear somebody in a meeting say something that intentionally what they meant, and everybody just kind of looking at them, and then somebody says that's also a moment to say, well, Christi, what I think I heard you say was this. Is that correct? Because then I think it also, even if nobody agrees, you're acknowledging, I heard what you tried to say, but this is what you meant to say. So I think just even learning as a leader, how to become an ally. And then also what you made me think about is, as a leader, we think that our people are supposed to acquiesce to our communication style. As a leader, you have to know, again, what every one of your people need, because you can't treat everybody the same in the sense of how you communicate with them, because everybody needs something different.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have, I just got some things, as I said, I want to run by you later. Not to be on the clock, but just just some conversational,
okay,
items I'd like to talk to you about.
I'm here for you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my closing thought, there's something I picked this up from a mentor years ago. He would always say, "Bad news doesn't get better with age."
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of the things I found just in all my dealing with people, sometimes we avoid having certain difficult but necessary conversations, and I think how it's so important that we set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So sometimes, like we've said during the show, sometimes somebody could do something and have no idea that they're crossing a line with you.
Yeah.
And if you don't say anything, that person continues to do it. It builds up, and then finally you get this big emotional reaction, as opposed to just addressing it in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And acknowledging it. Hey, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that, or I felt a certain way when you said that.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so important. And I think a lot of the bullying or perceived bullying can be cut out if people would just take that step. And I think you've added a mirror for a lot of our viewers to look at, okay, how am I responding in this situation? Is it something that I can do differently so that I'm not, a victim? Yes, and it may be somebody's targeting me, but if I'm speaking up, if I'm addressing it, I'm certainly not going to be a victim.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point. Because you only people only know what you tell them.
Yeah.
So.
And Dr. Monk, I may need to talk to you as well. I've got a certain business partner, that I need to talk to you about.
Well, I mean, conflict resolution. I do that too. So we want to win-win.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you offline.
All right. Well, I'm here for it. I appreciate you having me. As you can see, this is like my passion. This is what I do.
Yeah.
So, it was great, and thank you for allowing me to share on your platform.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure having you. And I think you dropped quite a few nuggets for people to really think about. And you have some real good content, the stay and some of the other things that make it easy for people to remember. So throw out your website information one more time, just so people have it. I know they're gonna be, your phone is going to be blowing up after this interview. So
I'm here for it. We have unlimited minutes now, so they come.
All right.
So Christi Monk, ChristiMonk.com, and then Dr. Christi Monk on all social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Have a Facebook fan page. Please go and like it. And email is cmonk@christimonk.com. And my number is 972-896-7874. It's a number.
So if you want to get to Dr. Christi Monk, she'd have gave you all the different ways.
What? Now
my cousin's number is
because I use it. I mean, I've had that phone number for 25 years. So if anybody, but I will say, leave a message now if I don't answer, because sometimes numbers come up and I'm like, you got the wrong number. But no,
right.
But I'm here for it. So I'm an open book. They know how to contact me. I sound like Charlie Wilson. What he said in that one song, he gave a page, or he gave every way to contact. So, but anyway, it's all good.
Yeah, thank you. We definitely have to have you back in the future. After you launch your Tuesday podcast.
All right, have y'all as my guest, and I get to answer questions.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, not to be confused, a Monday podcast, a Tuesday.
Right. Tuesday podcast.
That's right.
All right.
Excellent.
Great.
This has been an awesome episode. I see with the comments, people saying great segment, good
session, great session. Ted, I really like the color of your shirt. I don't see that, but I just wanted to say,
all right. Well,
no, it was an awesome session, and this is not your everyday podcast. This is the end of this week's episode. Thank you to Dr. Christi Monk for joining us. And until next time,
be confident, be bold, and be you.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Oh, that's what you was about to say too on there.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Have a great one.
All right.